belong at Stanford. And that includes having like messages about you belong, you know. And to me, all of this is really like, again, this culture of nudging and priming and, you know, which is based in a kind of stimulus response understanding of culture that makes no sense whatsoever. We spend hours reading the New York Times, we spend hours consuming other forms of cultural information that are certainly not going to be displaced by, you know, a 2-minute nudge, you know. So I think if anything, it's our role as, at least me as a cultural sociologist, to denounce this, but it's become a growth industry for cognitive scientists. And, you know, I think frankly sociologists have been a little bit asleep at the wheel as all these things are being put in place and we're not, you know, we're not talking back. And those disciplines also facing huge crisis with replicability. And, you know, we all, you know, those of us who work in sociology of knowledge, we know very well that knowledge doesn't disappear because it's not created. It disappears because of obsolescence. People stop, you know, quoting it. And here we are witnessing, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen serious sociology of science attack against this, you know, crisis about both in political science and in psychology about replicability. And we know that it's partly, you know, a way for these disciplines to affirm their status, you know. And I know in political science, a case that I'm following very closely, the idea that in order to publish in their top journals, you need to be able to deliver a replicability package. To produce that package is extremely expensive, and it's particularly expensive if you do qualitative research. And only people who are in universities where you can hire a research assistant will be able to do this. So I know that the president-elect of the APSC is really fighting against it, but yet it's seeping into sociology, you know, where now, until recently, our journal was asking people to deliver a replication package. So it's really like a culture of, you know, okay, you need to jump on the bandwagon of big data, jump on the bandwagon of, you know, and I feel like many of us know that big data, I mean, so much of it is data messaging that they have no theory, that, you know, it's a way to get a lot of money. And so, but all the universities are in the process of investing a fortune into them. And yet, you know, it's a little bit like if you criticize it, you're viewed as a naysayer. So I'm trying to be provocative here. Is anyone going to argue back?
I just want to follow up. So if because I sympathize a lot. There's somebody who's been spending his career barking from the outside against a very dominant discipline that does what I do. I mean, I'm talking about financial economics. Who do you think, from your perspective, so you're a prominent sociologist, who do you think we can have a potentially meaningful conversation with within cognitive science, the people who do behavioral economics? What theories, what people, what kind of approaches?
Well, I think the older generation, people like Howard Gardner and Jerome Brumer, were very sympathetic to, you know, looking at narratives, and they feel very much that the Christmas light approach to doing MRI with everything is a farce. You know, they feel that the cognitive science has gone the wrong way by becoming so technical. Behavioral economics, I don't know. Most of them, I think, are missionaries. I don't know if anyone who's in that clan who would be, but on the other hand, I know of many economists like Danny Roderick, you know, developmental economists and labor economists, who are just extremely critical of it. You know, but at the same time, it's become such a growth industry that it has gained its own momentum. But you talk to economists more than I do.
Right now, I don't remember names, but I'll send you the version of this paper and happy to anybody, because we positively draw on several behavioral economists in the field of finance who are interested exactly in attention structures. And I think there's some interesting things going on in game theory with ideas sort of I told Adam Brandenburger at NYU I
Yeah.
wouldn't be interested in game theory until a game theorist started thinking about the possibility that people could make a move simultaneous in more than one game at a
Yeah.
time, which is how I think we sociologists think. And now there are a couple people who are doing
Okay.
some interesting things
All right.
in that regard. I was provoked by something Steve said, actually two, so if I could go back to that. I mean, you said you called for theory that would deal simultaneously with values and value, that would look simultaneously at economic practices or at moral practices.
Yeah.
There's a name for that, it's called the sociology of worth, and Boltanski and Thévenot and Michel, Marianne Fourcade and myself are all like contributors to that. So, you know, we don't have to start from zero.
No, but I do think the fact that the economists aren't more directly involved is a kind of issue.
That the economists are not involved
I mean, I
in
get
that. We don't need to enlist them. Our goal in this thing is not to persuade the economists. No, that would be very mistaken. We have to set out and make our own agenda with our own methods, our own theory, and then attract social scientists of any persuasion. And if
Yeah.
economists want to come along and do it, the criteria of our success is not whether economists cite us.
Because
I-
they don't
I
cite
want to say,
anyone.
there was another thing.
Okay, I just want to say that I don't know if proliferating disciplines is a great idea in general. That's the only thing I would say. I would think one might want to rethink what the strategy of this is rather than just create another specialty.
But it's happened already.
Of course, yes, it has.
It's an empirical fact.
Yeah, but but you could treat the fact as a problem.
No, that's not the problem.
Well, no, but a lot depends on how you see the growth of knowledge in a way, and I think, in a way, the kind of appeal I was making, you know, at a kind of broader level, was in a sense to try to get groups that already exist to speak to each other, not to create a third field.
I'll say more to that then. I mean, I think the idea that the sociology of worth is the field of activity is very useful in the field of economic sociology, because there is a danger that economic sociology becomes the sociology of business. And if we say the object of study is worth, then we can have economic sociologists do anything. We study relations in families, in any particular domain of life. So that's that.
Yeah, I agree.
There's another thing that I was thinking about, and that was this kind of critique of valuation practices and instruments and devices as being reductionist. Now, that to me is like criticizing the brake because it slows down the car. Of course, valuation devices are reductionist. That's what they do. That's how they help us navigate in the world. Elena Esposito and I have a new paper. It's under review. We look at the proliferation of ratings and rankings especially, in so many domains of life. And what we look at is we see what is the criticism of ratings and rankings. They are not objective, they are obscurantist, they are non-predictive, and they're reductionist. Yet, they proliferate more and more. And our paper, which I'm not going to summarize, but invite you to look at, says the reasons that they are expanding into many, many realms of life is because they are reductionist, obscurantist, non-predictive, and not objective. Because ratings and rankings are not to give us a navigation in a world about what is the world. They are to help us navigate in a world in which more and more of our decisions have to take into account how other people are evaluating. So a kind of second order observation. And when we think about ratings and rankings as being kind of helping us to navigate that, then we have a very different picture about what they're doing. Not because they are an accurate description of the world, but because of their visibility, more and more people use them as points of orientation, even if they don't believe them. Because the more I think that Michelle is evaluating my department vaguely in terms of knowledge that, well, it's, slipped from like, 8 to 12 or something, that she doesn't have to agree with that assessment, but it is in our
David,
minds.
Aren't they reductive on 2 levels?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking here of that 2012 overview by Michelle on valuation, which speaks a lot about hierarchy and plural diverse orders of worth. And aren't ratings and rankings reductive insofar as they introduce broadly similar algorithms of selectivity in very different spheres? So choosing a restaurant, a date, a toilet cleaning product, these kind of processes of selection, which have the potential of operating according to wildly divergent logics, now have the similar selections methods introduced in this practice, and in that sense it is reductive of the range of logics of selectivity, right? Which would be
Yeah, but perhaps because of that, they are useful to help navigate the world. They don't, because if we thought about them, what they needed to do would be to be expressive of all the possible frames of evaluation. I think we would they would be so overtaxed that they wouldn't be valued. I'm not saying that do I choose the restaurant or movie or everything I'm going to see because I follow exactly the latest top 10 list? I'm not saying
Yeah.
that.
No, yeah, but
But-
I think what I mean is, why is a developer of algorithms for a dating app not interested in talking to a sociologist of dating? Insofar as the specificity of the evaluative practices that come with data, I would think would be an important source of knowledge, insight, but somehow we think that the transposability of these evaluative methods is...
But I think they do talk to them actually.
Yeah.
I think there is a flattening. I hear your point about the flattening, but maybe it happens at a deeper level. You see what I'm saying? They talk to everyone, and then they say, okay, fine. But there's still the reductionism that we have to introduce, because only one restaurant is going to be at first place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I agree with the
maybe
message,
it's a
but
matter
it
of-
happens at a
Yeah.
very fundamental level. I mean, we had in my conversation yesterday, which you didn't like, it creates politics. You see the political game of zero sum,
Yeah.
of ranking. It's built into the system. Only one person and one restaurant can be first place.
Johannes.
Yeah, should we talk about the underlying political issues? Questions of authority and the question of who can really speak about questions of value and worth. And I think what Claude said about this neoliberal critique, that is the critique of neoliberalism, which is sometimes associated with ranking as a social political problem. I think what happens there is that many people feel that these new ranking technologies, they dispossess people of their right to have a taste, to judge, to make distinctions. So they can no longer just spontaneously say, oh, wow, this is a great dating site or a great hotel, because they have to follow these artificial numbers and rankings. Now, is that a problem for the field that you represent? Is that a real problem? Because, the idea, of course, in the sociology of evaluation is to deconstruct the idea that there is something like personal subjective taste, and to point out the social mechanisms, all these abstract forces kind of working on individuals. And in a way, of course, that's, I think, what all the social sciences do. But don't you and we, I include myself, of course, don't we reproduce the kind of repressive liberating this possessing tendency of the very evaluation dispositive that we want to deconstruct in a way, by saying that it's all about social practices and these anonymous forces. And so is there some sort of political problem here that has not really been addressed?
Well, I think you're really hitting a good point, and especially I think the problem arises when you talk the way you do, which is to kind of justify what's happening, right? Because you say it works, right? You know, that we use this kind of criteria to make all these decisions, and it works. And it seems that the presumption that because the thing is the way it is and it works, that it in a way does kind of undermine the possibility for critique.
No, I don't think so. I think saying that something is effective doesn't preclude that you say I don't like it. I think those can be two very different things. I'll go to Johannes. I just kind of wonder. I'll do a very crude caricature of what you said, like the oppressed masses, you know, living under the weight of these valuation devices. That's one way of thinking about it. The other way of thinking about it is we're living in a world in which everyone, many times in a day, perhaps not us, but perhaps more like folks who are less academics, are evaluating. They are going, thumbs up, I like it. You know, they don't have to produce a top 100 list, a top 10 list, although many of them do. People are making top 10 lists all the time. But every time they go like, every time they go repost, every time they go comment, they are engaged in valuation. And if anything is sort of dangerous, it is kind of that with the feedback loops that then, you know, start producing various kinds of bubbles and you know, locked into this world of instant feedback about valuation, and everybody gets to do it. That's the problem. Less that, you know, people are burdened by other people's expertise.
So there's no way out.
Well, I'm not saying there's no way out. No, one would need to then think, could these technologies be mobilized as forms of resistance, as forms of like dissonant valuation frameworks? I don't know. I'm not saying because it happens that we're condemned to live in some kind of, you know, brave new world. I wouldn't expect so. But I would be interested in what are the kinds of research that's going on that could be used by activists to develop, I don't want to say comparable, I want to say counteractive. Lamont had this paper, which was in organization studies, which is about calculative power, you know, calculative capacity or something like that. Sort of counter valuations. I don't know, but
There's one question here, and then, yeah?
It was more of a point in the sense of being aware of the implicit orders of worth that we actually rely on when we criticize specific forms of evaluation, including measuring evaluation, because it is, I mean, among other things, I was kind of picking up on a number of keywords in the discussion. So for instance, saying that something is reductive assumes that other mechanisms of evaluation are not reductive, and that abundance or diversity is something which is a pre-existing condition of, among other things, the human species, right? And I was really intrigued by that, because one of the things I did, my first PhD was actually on how people evaluate other people in terms of choosing romantic partners. And the interesting thing about it was that I did it right before the introduction of dating apps. And obviously it showed, you know, the thing that Bourdieu wrote about as well, which is that people employ relatively strict class-based categories when they select partners. So from my point of view, how is that less reductive than, say, an algorithm that runs a dating app? And moreover, how do we claim that our rendition of that is more interesting or closer to the truth than an analysis that's founded in, say, for instance, on big data?
I think it's a very good point, and I would like to maybe to relate it and to also give some echo to just to David's remark and thus to Johannes, to relate it to the fact that maybe it's quite easy to think about conducting studies about very structured forms of evaluation, like the production of rankings on the web. You know, you see exactly the object, but looking at diffuse evaluation, you know, the fact that evaluation is conducted, you know, by, you know, in everyday life, by many people, that there are sequences of evaluation that punctuate everyday life of many actors, is a very important thing that could be an object by itself of study. So this diffuse evaluation. And second thing, also that is not so much, we have tended to study the processes of evaluation, but what about the uses of evaluation? I see a discrepancy between our attention to the processes of evaluation and the uses of evaluation by all kinds of bodies of individuals, etc. And I think that's also another point that could be discussed.
I think looking at the clock, this might be the moment where we say, perhaps you have one last
Well, in response to Johannes, I was thinking of the novel, The Circle, Eggers. You have read that?
Mm-hmm.
It's really the panopticon. It's kind of based on Facebook as a company. People who work there are encouraged to, you know, constantly post things and like things and engage in public presentation of self, and it becomes totally overwhelming for the main character because she's constantly evaluating others and being evaluated. So it becomes, you know, the epitome of the other-directed person, a la, you know, Riesman. So you might want to read that book because at some level it shows how these kinds of omnipresent evaluation systems end up being totally alienating because you don't have any space for interiority. It's really a very good novel, a kind of futuristic novel that was extremely popular among millennials. It's called The Circles. I'm surprised you haven't heard about it. Well, maybe in New York it was popular and it wasn't. You know.
It's a good, like, now to end on, given the large to-do list.
I need to still respond to Steve because he said I was an apologist.
Stop filming.
No.
It's gonna get moved again.
You'll see. Ratings and rankings are a response to anxiety in a world in which hierarchy is being flattened in so many different domains of life. And it's the funny thing, I mean, this is what provoked this paper with Elena, is what we were interested is like, why is it that as like hierarchy is, you know, flattened and not eliminated, but reduced in so many spheres of life, we get all these rankings, you know? Like we live in not in a ranked, ordered society, but a society of rankings. And in a ranked society, like the medieval feudal era, you know, you're in a rank and you stayed in it forever. But now, like where we stand on all these multiple rankings is something that we're increasingly anxious about. So I want to say, these rankings are a response to that. They help us deal with it, and they perpetuate that anxiety. They don't resolve it. They actually ratchet it up and keep us moving on this treadmill.
Sounds like a problem to me, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, okay, okay. We can agree on this, okay.
No, but in terms of producing a list of problems to work on, I think this panel has done a really really great job, so thank you. for that.
Well, thank you, everybody.
And thanks
Thank
for
you.
all.
Should we thank the organizers too?
Yes.
Yes.
Our 5 stars organizer.
Actually, give thumbs up to this. Thumbs up.
Like,
Yeah.
like.
Please tweet.
Don't go back.
No